Welcome to the podcast. It's the magical holidays. Time for Joe watching 60 Christmas movies in 60 days. Why, you might ask? Because it sounds like a crazy task to be watching 60 Christmas movies in 60 days. It'll be struggle, no I won't lie. By the halfway point I will lose my mind, but with your support I'm gonna be fine. So let's have a blast on this Christmas time. Join me now and let's find out about today's Christmas movie. Was it good or bad? Happy or sad? Is there another dead mom and dad? Let's get to it with no delay. It's your old pal Joe and he's happy to say welcome to Joe watches 60 Christmas movies in 60 days.
How's it going, everybody? It's me, your old pal Joe, and welcome to episode 45 of Joe Watches 60 Christmas Movies in 60 Days. Before we talk about today's movie, which is by all means an odd duck of a movie, let's talk about today's sponsor, every episode sponsor, Third Eye Comics. Third Eye Comics, available in multiple locations throughout the D.C., Maryland, Virginia area, but also available online to all of you at shop.thirdeyecomics.com. Check them out for any of your comics, graphic novels, gaming, music, movie needs. They have a little bit of everything and a lot of a lot. So check them out and see if they can help you out. Finding something for the Christmas season or maybe just, for fun. Nothing wrong with that. Today's movie is Colorado Christmas. Now, why did I choose Colorado Christmas? Because I have to watch 60 movies. But also because I saw that there were two movies that had themes or some sort of relation to the state of Colorado. So there's Colorado Christmas, and then the next movie is Christmas in the Rockies. We'll talk about that one when we get there. But today we're talking about Colorado Christmas. Funny enough, this movie does not take place in the state of Colorado. This movie is about a country singer who goes by the name of Johnny Colorado. All right. They're in Texas. My first line in my note says, "We open on presumably a town in Colorado." I was wrong. Anyway, we jump to our main character, Melody, helping an older lady do physical therapy. She has her daughter with her. Now over to our eventual love interest, Jackson. His name is, I think it's Johnny Colorado. I don't know why I wrote Jackson. What is his name? Oh, no, So, I screwed up a lot in my early notes. We meet a guy named Jackson. He is not our eventual love interest. He works at a ranch and is getting ready to reshoe a horse. Back to Melody and her daughter getting home. Melody chats with her neighbor who says, no joke, "Hey, listen, there's a new resident in Denver. He just moved from California. He's single, he's a doctor, he's cute." He's single, he's a doctor, he's cute. He's also a new resident that has moved to Denver. Anyway, I thought that sounded absurd, so I've clipped it for you to enjoy here.
And there's a new resident in Denver. He just moved from California. He's single, he's a doctor, he's kind of cute. I could watch Katie if you wanted to meet him for coffee or whatever.
The neighbor appears a few times in this movie. I don't think I have included many notes about them. But she's just a character. She doesn't really matter, but she did say this, and it's tickled me. Later, Melody listens to a message telling her it's unlikely some school will get funding for a musical department, so they can't bring Melanie on. We'll learn later on that Melody is a trained musician. She also has a degree in, I think it's musical arts, and this is going to come up a couple times in this movie. Anyway, she calls her mom, who pushes on Melody to move back home and to take a job at a preschool. Currently, Melody is a physical therapist. Melody says she was thinking about doing just that. It would be best for Katie, her daughter. She's having a rough time of it right now. She really misses her dad, as you may surmise from the history of movies that I've watched. Her dad has passed away. Cut to a roaring concert venue. We watch a country singer prepare to take the stage when someone tells him he needs to call home. It's about his dad. This man that we're seeing here, this is Johnny Colorado. He is our eventual love interest. When he gets home, we see his brother. He's brothers with Jackson from earlier. Why did we see Jackson from earlier? Well, because we also got to see his dad. Nothing else mattered in that earlier scene, though. Their dad was feeding the hogs on the farm that morning when he started fumbling his words. Turns out he had a TIA, a transient ischemic attack. As Jackson explains it to Johnny, a mini stroke, but he will be fine. Johnny is furious that Jackson waited so long to call him. Jackson says, but I knew you'd be busy on tour. Johnny is a big country star. Johnny blows up at him, but then apologizes. They make nice, and John heads off to bed. The next morning, Johnny checks in on his dad, who seems to be doing better. His dad is so happy to have Johnny home. Then Johnny complains about the bacon and eggs that Jackson was planning on making for breakfast and heads off to the grocery store to buy some healthy food. It's there he runs into Melody and her daughter Katie. They chat while in line. Melody complains that the store is playing Christmas music before Thanksgiving. In the background, you can hear some country song playing. Turns out it's one of Johnny's songs. Johnny starts ribbing her about this. He asks if she doesn't like Christmas music. She does. Just not that kind. So you don't like country music? No, I do. Just not that kind. She doesn't know that it's him behind the song. Then the radio playing says, anyway, she heads off and doesn't hear the rest of this. But Johnny laughs to himself, and then you hear the radio announcer over the store radio saying that song is from Johnny Colorado. Johnny gets home, and who does he find there but Melody? She's there to work with his dad. Jackson is surprised that they know each other. They explain how they met at the grocery store. Melody figures out Johnny is a country singer and feels bad about what she said earlier. Johnny jokes about it and says it's fine. Next, Johnny goes to check on his dad and finds he's hanging out with Melody's kid, Katie. Johnny asks Katie if she likes horses. She sure does, so he takes her over to the stables to feed their horses. Cut the end of the day, Melody and Katie head out. Later that night, Johnny works on some music. Over to Melody, who gets a message from the school district that the school district found some money so they can now bring her back. She smiles. So within days, she got a message saying, sorry, it doesn't look like we'll be able to hire you on for our music department. To, guess what? We found some money. We're going to create a whole new role for you within our music department. Then Katie, her daughter, who is about 5, maybe 6. She comes into her mom's bedroom and asks if they can play this or that. It's a game where they give each other choices like strawberries or grapes, and then they must choose which one they prefer. After that, Melody asks Katie if she'd like to go visit Grandma and her granddad. She sure would. But would you like to visit them for a long time? Yeah, she said that sounds good to her too. I'm not sure where this is taking Melody, but we will find out more later. The next day, back on the farm, we see Jackson hard at work. Johnny asks if he'd like some help. Jackson says, I've been needing help for 5 years. Johnny feels bad and helps him with some hay. What we see here is going on is that Johnny left the farm for grander fortunes to be a big country star, and that kind of left his dad to be the only helping hand left his brother to be the only helping hand for his dad on the farm. We join Melody picking up Katie from some kids program, and Katie notices Johnny on a gosh darn billboard. She points it out to her mom. Hey, look, it's Johnny Colorado. Melody is blown away to see how big of a star he must be. Cut to her arriving back at John's dad's place. She tells John she had no idea he was such a big deal. Johnny Colorado downplays it and says he's not. He says, around here, he's not Johnny Colorado. He's just John. We get some scenes of his dad doing physical therapy. Eventually, Melody takes a break and chats with John. He asks how someone who knows so much about music, and as I mentioned, it came up earlier in the movie, that she has a master's in music theory. Anyway, how did she end up doing in-home health care? She explains that her dream job was to be a music teacher. She even was one for a while, but then they lost Katie's dad, and home health care was a job that allowed her to take Katie with her, so she moved into that field. She then asked Johnny if he always wanted to be a country singer. He sure did. He's loved doing it, but also has missed out on some stuff at home, and his relationship with his brother Jackson isn't what he'd like it to be either. After they're done chatting, Melody calls the school about joining them as a music teacher. She'll take the job. Cut to her at the school in her new classroom. She'll start after Christmas. Melody is very excited. Cut to Melody visiting her parents with Katie. This is Thanksgiving, so this is why they're visiting them. Everyone is so happy to see each other. After dinner, she explains to her mom that she's decided to stay where she is because of the new position at the school. Her mom is disappointed. We then get a scene of Melody reuniting with a horse her parents have. Apparently this was also a horse that she knew when she lived there. Then Melody and Katie head off home. Later, she arrives at Johnny's dad's place and finds the brothers bickering over some burnt cinnamon rolls. She tells the brothers that she thinks they need some Christmas cheer. We get a small decorating montage, and then Johnny, Melody, and Katie go out to cut down a Christmas tree. Back to decorating. This movie has so many long scenes. Oh yeah, let's extrapolate on this bad boy. This movie, as I mentioned at the beginning of this podcast, is an odd duck. It is not bad. I mean, look, okay, so it's not good. Like, you don't want to watch this movie. But it's not like it's terrible. It's fine. It's long for all the there's not that much content in it as far as stuff happening. It's just not that much. So there's lots of long scenes of people riding horses, of people not wandering, but walking to and fro, walking across the farm, decorating a Christmas tree, decorating the home. There's just lots of long scenes. So anyway, after the Christmas tree decorating, we then see Johnny drawing with Katie, and Melody is really touched to watch her daughter drawing with this guy. Then we get more decorating. Later on, Melody takes a break from helping Johnny's dad and chats with Johnny. He's working on a new song, but he can't get it right. They start talking about the touring life. He used to love it, but now he seems to prefer things being slower. They share a moment. Another day is upon us. Johnny hears someone playing a piano in the house, and wouldn't you know it, it's Melody. She's even playing one of Johnny's songs. He's shocked at how it sounds on the piano. He ends up grabbing his guitar and they play it together. We get a shot of Melody, Katie, and Johnny all riding horses together. It lasts 40 seconds. Later, Johnny gives Melody and Katie a ride home because their car is in the shop. This leads to Katie introducing Johnny to all of her stuffed animals at home. They also invite Johnny to stay for dinner. They have a great time. Before he leaves, he says he'd like to pick her and Katie up the next day, since her car will still be in the shop, to take them for breakfast and then go take them to pick up their car. Melody would like that. They get breakfast and then they get the car. As a thank you, Melody asks Johnny if he'd like to get dinner sometime. He sure would. They make plans for the next night. Cut to the date. They go to a restaurant where Johnny's uncle works. I think he's more of a guy he's known since he was a kid than a biological uncle, but we'll never find out. As they eat, Johnny breaks down how almost any song can be a hit if you hear it enough. For example, he could make Happy Birthday into a catchy song. She dares him to try. He then takes the stage in the restaurant/bar where they have a stage and they have a band playing, but we haven't heard them yet, and then plays with the band a rendition of Happy Birthday. He keeps singing it, he sings it as if it's a full-length song. And as he continues playing it, eventually people get so into his version of Happy Birthday that they get up and start dancing and clapping along. After dinner, Johnny and Melody go for a walk. Melody admits that she was nervous about the date because he's such a big star. How could a normal person like her ever measure up? He says spending time with her is more fun than most of the time he's spent on the road, or something like that. She's very flattered. After that, she goes home and talks about her big date with her neighbor from earlier. Her neighbor is a big fan of Johnny's and is starstruck that Melody actually went on a date with him. We get a series of scenes of Melody and Johnny and Katie hanging out. Eventually, this is interrupted by Johnny's management team coming to see him. They want to add more dates to the tour because he's missed some dates and it's been so successful. He says it's a Christmas tour. It should end on Christmas. They say no, it should keep going because it's so hot. The one person who's there, Sierra, is not really a management person, but basically she's someone who was on the tour with Johnny and they would perform together as part of the show. Apparently they used to be an item. She talks about how she and Johnny once had a relationship and then asked him to think about her and her career because him not taking these extra dates is negatively affecting her. After she leaves, Johnny wants to talk to Melody. He says he needs to go back on tour. Melody understands. But then Melody asks if there was ever something with Sierra. He finds it hard to explain, so she sort of blows up and says, "It's okay. It's fine." And then she goes home. Cut to Johnny telling Sierra that he's going to accept the additional tour dates. Sierra's very happy to hear this. She also wants to go back to them being together. He says they can't. They need to move on. There's a weird thing where he tries to tell her that there's nothing between them now, but she wants him to write it down and put it in his pocket, and if he doesn't feel a spark between them during the tour, he can then give her the note that says there's nothing between them. Instead, he writes it out and gives it to her now, which is kind of a bold move. Sierra is sad, but then gets an idea. She then takes the note that he's written, and on the back of it writes Melody's name, and then takes the note with her. We see Johnny planning to leave when Jackson says his goodbyes. He starts to leave things be, but then goes on a rant about how he took care of their mom when she was in her last days, and now he's having to take care of their dad. And then while the mom was sick, all she ever did was ask about Johnny, not Jackson. And at first he was really hurt by this. Like, why is she always asking about him? I'm here with her. But then he realized it's because she wanted both of them to be home. Johnny starts to cry. Jackson says, look, I don't blame you, Johnny, for not being there. But the key is you also need to not blame yourself. So this was a kind of a confusing scene where at the beginning you think his brother's going to be really mad at him, but by the end he's telling him, Johnny, don't blame yourself. Anyway, they hug. We then get some stock footage of concert venues filled with people and a montage of Melody working with patients. This gets interrupted by one of the horses, one that Katie loves, on Johnny's farm, being sick. Jackson goes to get help while Katie and Melody stay with the horse. I don't think, maybe it was colic? I forget what the horse had, but whatever the horse had, they were afraid to let the horse lay down and go to sleep. And this is important, because now that Jackson is gone to go get the vet, Melody has agreed to stay up with the horse and basically keep it on its toes, keep walking it, keep talking to it, keep it awake, keep it around. This takes longer than expected. So Melody is stuck with the horse for a while. In fact, it goes all night because of some road closure that they encountered on the way to get the veterinarian. She tells this while this is happening. While she's walking it around the ranch, she tells the horse a story about horses. The next day, the doctor finally arrives. They get the horse some medicine. He should be fine. Katie heads off to get some rest. Melody, not Katie, but finds the note supposedly addressed to her that Sierra has left for her. She's stunned to read the note. Cut to her taking Katie and heading home in a huff. Johnny's dad is so confused. Why did she leave in a huff? What's going on? Cut to Johnny arriving home during a break in the tour. He checks in with his dad. His dad explains how Melody stayed with the horse while it was sick. Johnny is blown away that Melody stayed with the horse all night. His dad also tells him a story about Johnny's mom, and it's basically about how Johnny should appreciate Melody while she's there. Johnny takes it to heart. And then Johnny goes back on tour, apparently without talking to what's her name? Melody. Oh, maybe, I think what it is that the tour is in his hometown. Wherever this is, that's where the tour happens to be. So that's why he went home to see his dad. Back on the stage or backstage before a show in his hometown, Sierra tells Johnny that, needs to tell Johnny something. It's basically that she's sorry for how she's been behaving, and now she knows that he should be with Melody. Cut to Melody dropping Katie off with a babysitter. As she drives away, she hears mention on the radio that Johnny's concert is in town, and she decides to go to the show. Earlier, he'd given her a backstage pass to any show. It's a piece of paper that just says, like, Johnny Colorado backstage pass. And all she has to do is show it to anybody, and she can get backstage at any show. So then she goes to the show, gets to the green room using that pass, but she finds out Johnny isn't there. Cut to her arriving back home and finding Johnny Colorado at her very own door. He tries to talk to her, but she pulls out the note that says, that he didn't want to be with her anymore, or they should move on. And she says that note hurt her a lot. Johnny Colorado is so confused. She won't even let him speak, though. Eventually, he cuts through to say that the note was for Sierra. And I think it's funny because it's not like she said what was in the note. It's just a folded piece of paper with her name on it. And it's funny that weeks later, he's going to go, wait a second, weeks ago, I gave that same folded paper to Sierra. But he does remember. Anyway, they make up and then head off to his concert. Cut to the two of them walking with Katie. I guess we don't get to see the concert, so this is after the concert. The three of them chat for a bit, and then we fade to Melody and Johnny sitting by themselves on a porch at night. By the way, the drama in the movie's over. This is all the end of the movie. Johnny and Melody play the this or that game. It's apparently Christmas Eve, and then it starts snowing, and then they kiss, but that's not the end of the movie. Now it's Christmas Day. Johnny's dad makes a toast to the gathered group. It's basically a welcome for Melody and Katie into the family. Then it's time to open presents. The end on Johnny Colorado. Like I said, look, this is not a good movie by any means, but it is not a terrible movie either. It's just between you and me. Just between you and me. It's a bad movie. It's just somebody who had an idea for a movie, and they had the funds, and they got the friends, and they made the movie. It's not offensive, but don't watch it. You're not going to have a good time. Anyway, that's the end of episode 45. That's the end of Colorado Christmas starring Johnny Colorado. MVP of the movie, I'm going to actually go with Johnny Colorado. He did some good emotional work in this movie, and I believed his emotions, like when he was sad about his brother, or when he was confused with Melody at the end. I think he did some fine work in this movie. So Johnny Colorado, you're today's MVP. That's about it. Thanks for listening. Thanks for hanging out. I'll talk to you next time in episode 46 because that's how this has to go. Goodbye.